just because I had done some work with Brooklyn and had a new kind of perspective to the district. I want to give you two examples of something that started in our school improvement committee and is changing practice in the classroom. So in school improvement committee, we read the protocols for professional learning book, as you know. We jigsawed them, we discussed them, and they wanted to model one, what it would look like to use the tuning protocol to discuss student work. So I agreed to bring my student work, pulled out a stack of Cornell notes from a PowerPoint I'd given my students in social studies, 6th graders, and passed them around the committee and used a protocol to look at them. And I'll tell you the results in a minute. Because of the protocols, we went back into the building, and in the building level, we used the protocols in the PLC leaders meetings to look at data, to talk about professional text. We use them with our own PLC, same thing, to look at data, in discussion, to talk about how to plan units. We use them in our building professional development. We use protocols in order to make an effective use of time. Well, how does this affect the classroom? I learned a lot of things from one meeting with the tuning protocol and my students' Cornell notes. I learned that I did an okay job of, for 6th graders, providing them with a way to take notes from a PowerPoint. I had provided them with some sentence frames so that they didn't have to just take notes right off the bat.
What is Cornell Notes?
Cornell Notes, are you guys familiar with it? No. Some are saying yes, some no. It's a note-taking strategy developed out of Cornell University several years ago as a way for students to record their thinking and hold their thinking. And in addition to just note-taking, students write questions. They're to go home within 24 hours, write questions that match some of the notes that they took, and also summarize their learning that evening as a way to remember. And there's this curve of forgetting. Research shows that if you revisit your notes within 24 hours, your memory rate stays at 90 to 100%, whereas if you don't look at something that you've learned within 24 hours, you lose about 80% of that. And so if you revisit your notes throughout a month, even just 3 or 4 minutes, a couple of times a week, you can get whatever you learned into your long-term memory. And so we decided it would be kind of, Dr. Monty introduced Cornell Notes to us as one way to help student achievement, to get students recording their thinking. And so I had tried it out. And the committee liked some sentence frames. However, my students' questions were all over the map. They didn't necessarily match what I'd written over here. And their summaries, I learned, were completely inconsistent. They had written down anecdotal stories that I told while presenting my PowerPoint. And I knew I had some work needed to be done. So what I tried to do was get my kids taking less notes that were provided by me, so that I could get them to take notes on their own by the end of the year. I did some explicit teaching of levels of questioning. I used the book Sneetches, a book called Ugly Fish. We read picture books and asked questions about them so that kids could think beyond just the text to help them with their questions. And lastly, one thing I learned from the committee is that I had permission to change the Cornell Notes format a little bit. And my 6th graders needed some things broken down. And so I took summaries and I added these keys to the Cornell Notes, which aren't a part of it. And I said, before you write your summary, you must pick 4 super important key ideas from your actual notes on the front. And once you get those key ideas, write your summary. Of course, they work in groups, so they could do it independently. And then write a reflection. What do you think about that? And so at first, my first round said summary, analysis, reflection, all in one paragraph. And of course, it was inconsistent because my kids didn't know what I was asking them to do. And I learned all of that from one protocol in School Improvement Committee. So, because I had such success, my principal asked me, a month later at our next committee meeting, I brought student work and showed them all of the things that I'd been working on and how they were now consistent and all the things that kids could do on their own. And we celebrated that. And it ended up becoming this year, that was last year, a professional development on how Cornell Notes can be effective in the classroom. So I provided 2 professional development sessions to our staff, effective ways to teach Cornell Notes, how to model them, how to break it down, how many steps you need to teach it. They came back and we asked all teachers to just try it. And they came back and we talked a little more about how to get a good summary. And then we used a protocol for the staff to look at each other's notes in different subject areas. And it was really powerful. So now students are using Cornell Notes in all classes. They even use them in PE before taking directions, before a game or that kind of thing. Students use them to study. Teachers know that if you're going to assign notes, you need to follow it up with a project or a test or some reason for students to revisit them, to remember that information. And Cornell Notes are being incorporated into unit plans. Just one very small example, but it came right out of one school improvement meeting. A second example is we've been doing the book study of Teach Like a Champion, and we use Notice Elements Protocol to discuss instruction in the classroom. I was able to bring that book then back to the PLC leaders meeting and suggested, and 8 different PLC leaders asked our principal to purchase it for them so that they could read it to help move their PLC teams forward. In addition, one particular technique stood out, and it is the I do, you do, we do. It's kind of a framework for teaching, and that technique was modeled in a recent reading professional development. But I wanted to take it a step further because my team is a little bit resistant to change. They don't want to change up their instruction. They like doing what they do, but I knew it was important. So I developed this out of the book. It's just a little sheet. We were going to meet together to plan a unit on informational text. I wanted them to choose one lower level short text to model. We do. And I just created this little handout for when we would get together based on the book plan. In a group, in a PLC, we came up with power standards for this informational text unit. And then we got together, divvied out each of these standards, these power standards, and divided and conquered and made lesson plans. As a result, this is just fact opinion. I do, you do, we do, different ideas and lessons that we have out of it. So the end result now, based on this book study, is that teachers are using that I do, you do, we do, because it was taught in the building professional development. Now, all 6th graders, because that's the team I work with, will be receiving reading instruction at their level, the same formative and summative assessment for our nonfiction unit, because we plan together, and we're really trying to practice deprioritization of our practice. We're working towards a common goal. We started with a summative assessment before we went into planning, and now all 6th graders will be taught the same way and have the same checks to make sure that they're getting it. I'm going the wrong direction. And then in addition, this year I'm working more of a reading specialist with the 6th grade, and so I go and push into science and social studies classrooms to teach reading of the content area. And techniques in the book like no opt-out is something that I can model and show teachers how to use with their content area. And our literacy coach and I work together so that she can take those same techniques and model them in 7th and 8th grade. And so we're really becoming more unified and together, and it started with this committee.